Hello, everyone. You're listening to the I Go With Ego podcast, bringing you guests with first-hand experience in studying abroad and seasoned personalities excelling in the workforce. We want you to own your journey and be the best you can be. Now presenting your host, Ego Kelly Ekakite.
Hi everybody, welcome to another episode of the Go With Ego podcast. It's so good to have you here. It is still Black History Month. I tell everybody every month is Black History Month. I don't care if it's November, December, October, or January. It's all Black History Month because we love it that way. Thank you. Anyways, I have a very special guest, Mr. Adam Smith. Mr. Adam, welcome to the Go With Ego podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for welcoming me. It's an honor to be here.
Absolutely. It's great to have you here. I was thinking, who can I invite for this Black History Month? I'm like, oh yeah, Adam. Thank you for honoring my invitation.
Awesome.
All right. So tell us something exciting about you, something you want my audience to know about you.
I have a twin brother. I think that's pretty cool.
Right.
Identical twins. Yeah. And I guess an extension to that, I have a little sister as well. I have a few siblings, but me, my brother, and my little sister, we all look alike. We kind of are around the same age. So some people call us triplets. We all kind of look alike, talk alike, always around each other. So that's one thing maybe the audience might enjoy. I'm a math geek. I'm a math nerd. I love math. I was a math teacher. I do math problems as a hobby. It's just like kind of therapeutic for me. So definitely a math nerd. So those are a couple, I don't know, maybe some idiosyncrasies about me.
Okay, well, I'll tell you this, my audience. I see his meme and it's all maths, something addition, something subtraction, something multiplication. Okay, I'm not a science person, I'm an art person, but great job. I love the memes, trust me.
Oh, thank you, I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, I just try to, on Instagram or on my social media, just try to share things that get people thinking or laughing or both. So if we can do both, then I feel like my mission's accomplished.
Absolutely. All right, so what does Black History Month mean to you? And why is it important for us to celebrate and acknowledge the achievements and the contributions of Black people?
Black folks have contributed so much, not only in America but in the world, right? With the diaspora from the slave trade, we are widely dispersed across all the Americas. We're of course there's migration patterns, evolution patterns. We're in Europe, we're in Asia, we're all over the world, and I don't think that if left to their own devices, white dominant culture will paint a very sparse and negative picture of Black people. So we have to push against the grain and ensure that we are creating a space where we are celebrated, where our achievements are noted and uplifted. The layers and complexities of our movements, of our migrations, of our generations are also part of the history. Black history didn't begin and end with the slave trade in America. It is much more broad, much more complex, much more nuanced, and much more rich than that. So Black History Month is a way to protect 28 days to really honor not only the achievements of Black people, but just honor the rich history of Black folks over the centuries and over the millennia.
I agree. Who are some of the Black leaders, activists, educators, and let's say pioneers that have inspired you? And why are they significant in your view?
So just to name a few, just context, I work in the education space. So I kind of sit in the intersection of education, racial justice, equity, that kind of thing. So there are some writers and thinkers and philosophers who have kind of informed my growth. And one of them is Gloria Ladson-Billings. She's a professor out of, I think, University of Wisconsin-Madison. She was one of the pioneers of the intersection of critical race theory and education, particularly, and she does a lot with math education as well. Other thinkers and writers, Lisa Delpit is another thinker in the education space, Black woman. Others are Audre Lorde, the Black queer thinkers and theorists are Audre Lorde. Other thinkers are Bell Hooks, Langston Hughes, pretty much those who have informed how I move through the world as a Black queer man and whose identities have informed their thinking and the words that they share with the world. So kind of like my inspiration is kind of in the space of education and or Black queerness, and how their stories and those stories have been uplifted and centered.
Absolutely. There's so many great thinkers, writers, educators in history over time, even activists over time, that has shaped who the identity will want to be. One of them I look up to is Nelson Mandela of South Africa, and also Martin Luther King, that we learned of growing up. So these people are people that we look up to, and it's important that we have these people in our lifetime. And there are new Black people creating history right here in our lifetime, and I hope the future will be kind to them.
Yeah, and just extend your, my response to your question. There's so many, inspirational Black people, who are not public figures, but who are in my life and who have definitely inspired me in so many ways. So just also honoring those individuals who don't have like a public name, but I still want to uplift them as part of my inspiration as well.
I agree. And of course, one of those people we look up to, maybe it's our moms too. Our moms are wonderful people. They teach us a lot too. Yeah. So what steps do you think need to be taken to ensure that the curriculum accurately and fairly represents the experiences and the perspective of Black people? And how can teachers and educators work together to make this happen?
It's a good question. I could answer this question in many different ways, but I'll kind of start with just talk to your kids. Like if you teach Black children, talk to them, learn about them, and not just their birthdays or their favorite music artists or fashion trends, but like really get to know them, get to know their families, get to know how they socialize, get to know, if they're having a bad day, don't go straight to discipline or correction, like understand why they might be having a bad day or acting in a way that isn't consistent with the character that you know them to be. So just really get to know your students very deeply, and that will help to ensure that you're bringing their identities into the curriculum in a very natural and organic way. Because oftentimes it can be very contrived, because it can be Black history. It's like, okay, let's have a festival, let's wear dashikis, and let's listen to Martin Luther King speeches. Not to say there's nothing wrong with that, but that doesn't get to the heart or the core of our students' identities. So if you really want to bring Black students into the curriculum, especially if you teach Black students, get to know them and bring them in authentically. If you don't teach Black students, and maybe you teach at a school that's not Black serving, maybe other races, but you still want to center Black history, still want to center the Black experience in your curriculum, read different writers and thinkers, learn their perspectives. There are writers out there who have written about how to bring math curriculum to Black children. There are papers and journals out there how to bring the ELA curriculum math to Black children, etc. So read, educate yourself to really learn how to do it in an authentic and uplifting way, and not in a way that is contrived or not in a way that is superficial.
Yeah, so there's this big talk about critical race theory and AP being removed from curriculum in Florida and all that. What does it mean, and what do you think about it?
I've studied critical race theory pretty extensively. The way that critical race theory has been communicated, the way it's been shared in media, is really inaccurate. Oftentimes when we hear critical race theory in the common zeitgeist in the past year or so, they're talking about Black history, and they're talking about the realities of what's been going on with racial relations in the country over the past few decades. That's not necessarily critical race theory. Critical race theory is about how we use race as a tool to examine different social, political, and economic phenomena. It's using race as a lens through which we view how the world moves. That's what critical race theory is. That's deeper, more nuanced than that, but in a nutshell, it's using race as an intellectual tool, or as a way to approach critical awareness, or as a way to approach a critique of any kind of structural, institutional phenomena. That's what critical race theory is, and that's not how it's been communicated. So I'll just put that out there. Yeah. So back to your question about my thoughts about the bans on the language in different states and the bans on curricula. It's nothing more than there's nothing more than a tool to erase or whitewash or revise history, especially in favor of a white dominant culture. That's all it is. That's all this movement's doing.
Yeah, I totally agree, because it's been politicized, it's been weaponized, it's caused a great divide, and the people even leading the movement don't have an idea of what the word critical race theory is. But we hope that people like yourself and the platform we have can keep talking about it and keep putting what the true word and true meaning is out there for people to understand. So thank you for doing that.
Absolutely.
Science nerd, maths nerd, right?
Yes.
So how do you use technology today and resources to support students' learning and their engagement in the study of Black history?
It's important to kind of see how students are consuming media. It's not newspapers anymore, right? Like that's kind of almost obsolete, especially for our kids. So using the platforms that they are already on, like TikTok or Instagram, Twitter, etc. So using those platforms as a way to bring history to them, as a way to bring knowledge to them. And maybe as an adult or as somebody who might be generations older, kind of getting to know those platforms and knowing how to navigate them, so you are able to kind of use the media that they're already consuming to be able to use it for educational purposes, for learning about their cultures, learning about their histories, and learning about a world beyond their own.
Mm-hmm. Okay, to a large extent, the questions that you ask the ChatGPT, there's an answer for it. Mm-hmm. And that's scary. But I wonder if teachers today can hold students accountable if they use ChatGPT and if they even know they use it.
Yeah, I actually had this conversation with a colleague a couple of weeks ago about ChatGPT. Just like any new technology, it's scary. Mm-hmm. And just like any new technology, our gut reaction is to try to combat it or try to suppress it. Like it happened with TVs, decades ago. It happened with internet. It happened with social media. Like any kind of new iteration of technology is going to be scary because it's the unknown. And I can see the same thing happening with ChatGPT. So obviously it can be abused just like any other tool. It can be abused, but it can also be used for good. It can also be used in a positive way. Because let's say, for example, right, students have trouble writing. Writing is a skill that has to be developed. You can't just wake up and say I'm a writer. So we can use ChatGPT if students have ideas. Like, okay, we'll just put your ideas in ChatGPT and see what comes up. Oh, you have a whole essay. Okay, cool. Read that essay and kind of see how the essay was constructed to help fuel your own writing capabilities. It can be a vehicle to build students' writing muscle. It can also be a way for students to kind of see how their ideas could be written out if they're having trouble doing it themselves. So it could be an actual really good teaching tool if teachers are able to be creative with it and use it as a way to enhance but not hinder students' educational journeys. So to answer your question directly, you asked earlier around like how can teachers maybe discern what's being written from students' brains versus ChatGPT. That just requires knowing your kids, honestly, and it requires knowing your students. If you know students' writing or talking styles and you see an essay that they submit is inconsistent with that, then have a conversation. Hey, is this you? This isn't you. This is ChatGPT, and let's take some actions to redoing it, failing, giving a zero, whatever. But just knowing your students and knowing how they produce content is going to be important, and being able to discern what's being ChatGPT and what's not. And if it is ChatGPT, we can maybe use it as a tool for good, so students don't feel like they have to use it as a way to skirt or cheat, but use it. But if we use it for good and promote it as a tool, then it could be kind of reconfigured in how students bring it to their educational experiences.
If there's anything that teachers should know, ChatGPT doesn't cite for you. There's no in-text citations, so exactly. You have to go and do the work still of finding where that quotation is from. And yeah, it's a lot. I'll just say this: I use ChatGPT for my blog posts, but I do have to go back and make edits and all that. But
you have to make edits, right? Exactly right. As teachers or as adults, who we can push students to do that. So, okay, well, put it in ChatGPT and then make your edits.
True.
And then do your citations, make your edits, so it still is your work. It's just a tool that has helped you do your work, like a calculator. Calculators are tools just like that. Yeah.
Right. So what do you think about the future and what it holds for Black people And what steps do you think we need to take to ensure that the legacy of Black leaders, educators, is passed down to future generations?
I think to realize a future of like true liberation, true empowerment, we have to stop trying to be like other people. We have to aspire to greatness that is our own, aspire to identities that are our own. Also, respect, acknowledge, and center the variety of identities and presentations of Blackness within our own community. There's not just one way to present Blackness. There's not just one way to be Black. We have Black queer people, Black trans people, Black disabled people. There's a lot of identities and presentations that are not honored. I think, there is, some prevailing beliefs that there's one way to be Black, right? Don't be ghetto, don't be poor, be excellent, quote unquote. Like Black excellence, which is actually a phrase I don't like because there's a subtext there that there is Black non-excellence, which is not true, right? All Blackness is great. All Blackness should be celebrated and uplifted and centered. So I think we have to release ourselves from the paradigm that there's only one way to be Black, or there's only one way to aspire to be Black and excellent, because there's not. And if we continue in this paradigm where you have to look a certain way, talk a certain way, dress a certain way, make a certain amount of income, be at this certain social status, be in these certain spaces, be straight, be thin, be pretty, be light-skinned. If we continue these paradigms, then we will not appreciate all the fabric of Blackness that exists in our diaspora across the world. So until we can acknowledge, celebrate, and appreciate all the shades and nuances and presentations and cultures and experiences of Blackness, then we will never have a fully realized, liberated future.
For yourself, can you share a personal story or experience that has shaped your understanding of Black history and your lived experience as a person of color, and how this experience influenced your decision and your role today in society?
I think one of my most formative and pivotal experiences of my life was attending an HBCU, Tougaloo College in Jackson, Mississippi. I grew up in white suburbia, right? And or socialized to believe that there is one way to be, progress in this world or progress in my life is to aspire to whiteness, for lack of a better term, to talk a certain way, dress a certain way, surround myself with certain people. So I had this conception of Blackness that was negative in many ways growing up. I'm very thankful for my HBCU experience because it forced me to unlearn a lot of problematic thoughts and behaviors that I harbored in my upbringing. And that has helped me to totally transformed my worldview, particularly around how I celebrated Blackness and how I saw Black people, which of course, in turn, I learned more history, I learned more culture, and I took classes, and I'm thankful to have had professors who taught Black history in a way that was empowering and that was deep and complex and nuanced, and not just regurgitating the MLK quotes that we always hear, or not just regurgitating the history of the slave trade as the bedrock of Black American history, right? But just learning way above and beyond the paradigms of Black history that I grew up with. So that HBCU experience in so many ways helped me to see the world in a different way.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Before I let you go, do you have any shout outs for anyone at all, or people or friends around you? And what words of advice would you give to any Black kid out there wondering what next to do and what steps to take in life? What advice would you have for them?
Yeah, good question. So as far as shout outs go, shout out to my people, my St. Louis folks, my St. Louis friends, who helped me make my St. Louis experience so positive and so impactful and so transformative. Shout out to my HBCU colleagues, my classmates, my professors. Shout out to my family, shout out to just, my social media people that I follow and admire. You may not know I admire you, but your posts, your stories, your words have definitely informed and shaped my worldview as well. So yeah, so definitely, I appreciate the Black people in my life. I appreciate the ways that they protected and uplifted and celebrated me and have embraced me. Yeah, I just can't say enough. It's priceless to be surrounded by so many awesome Black folks in my life. So I definitely, I'm very thankful of that. To your second question about like, what advice would you give a young Black individual who's trying to navigate life? This is gonna sound so contrived, but honestly, be yourself. Like, celebrate who you are, celebrate how you show up in the world, and learn the magic you possess. Like actually sit with yourself and be really thoughtful and be really intentional about, well, you know, how do I show up in the world? What is my magic? Like, what is my value? Because we all have a unique value, purpose, magic, and it's very easy to feel stripped of that because of different isms, right? You know, colorism, racism, sexism, homophobia, like all these isms will really kind of erode those unique presentations and those unique facets of your identity that are yours. So do your best to like push past those, and really celebrate who you are and all the different facets of you. I want our young Black people to feel secure in themselves and to feel secure in the way they show up in the world, and feel secure in their talents, feel secure in their skills, their uniqueness, their quirkiness, their idiosyncrasies, because that is what makes you you.
Well, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Adam, for coming on the show.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. It's been a pleasure.
Have a good one.
Thank you so much.